Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. The usual suspects are here, and today we're going to talk about Greg Schiano and the Tennessee situation. So I heard about on the radio, driving to work and from work today. They talked about how Greg Schiano was hired by Tennessee and then subsequently fired by Tennessee because of his potential connection with the Sandusky trial. I remember back in 2011, 2012, I think it was, Sandusky was tried for raping kids.
Awful. Yes.
You know, something terrible. But it was...
Was it raping kids? It was like...
It was definitely, yeah.
It was numerous cases with
like locker room shit, right?
Oh, yeah.
Over a period of 20 years.
Plus. And, you know, Joe Paterno lost fame and fortune after he died, obviously, unfortunately. But, so anyways, back to Schiano, back to the case here. It was said that he knew about the allegations, so...
He was an assistant coach there.
Yes, so that's how he's connected to Sandusky and Penn State back in the 90s, early 90s, too.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out that Tennessee fans heard about who they hired, were not pleased with it because they've been pretty upset these past couple of years since Tennessee has not been a good football team. Found out that they hired him, remembered those allegations, and created a mob. Threatened the athletic director and staff and people who hired him, so Tennessee backed out of hiring him.
Right, kind of like boycott situation.
Yes.
Yeah, they were chanting, Schiano, Schiano.
Oh, clever.
Yeah. Using those degrees.
My question is, so he was an assistant coach at Penn State?
Yes.
I'm very oblivious to all this. This is my first time hearing about it, so I've got a lot of questions.
So he was one of the lower-end assistant coaches. You know, he was just starting coaching at that point.
And they're saying that he had no idea that any of this was going on at Penn State while he was there.
Well, that's what Schiano is saying. He said that he had no idea.
Of course.
And when Sandusky was tried in court, Danny looked at this earlier, it turned out that they didn't even pursue Schiano's knowledge. It wasn't even enough
he wasn't
evidence.
even a suspect or even thought about during that whole Penn State thing.
Yeah, the gentleman who made the initial allegations was Mike McQuarrie, who was an assistant coach at Penn State, and he was the one who made the comments about Schiano and about Jim Mora. We all know Jim Mora coached in the NFL and at UCLA.
Atlanta Falcon coach at one point.
Yes.
Rise up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I knew we couldn't get through saying about the Falcons without it.
Poor taste, my bad.
But he's the one who made the allegations about Schiano, saying, and this is on the ESPN article, McQuarrie indicated that Schiano went to him in the early 1990s, quote unquote, white as a ghost, and said he just saw Jerry doing something to a boy in the shower, unquote. After all that came to court, what you were just saying a second ago was that nothing came out in court about that. And I kind of paraphrasing through this ESPN article, that's pretty much what happened. So either they spent all this time investigating every bit of this case, because this was national news, and they wanted to take down every single person that had anything to do with it or covered it up. Evidence Paterno, evidence Sandusky, all of that. So they could not find anything, or they would not take the comment by McQuarrie seriously enough to say, okay, this really could be true. Maybe he's just trying to throw everyone under the bus on this one. They didn't take it credibly enough to where they pursued it during the criminal investigation. So combine that with, NFL execs, Mark Dominic. I don't know if he's still the Tampa Bay GM, but he might be. But he put a tweet out basically mentioning that they spent years going back and taking a look at all the background, because obviously it's a serious situation. They did all the background for this guy, all this checks, security checks, all this type stuff for him, came out clean, basically said he's a good father, good husband, good football coach. Yeah, we had to fire him because he didn't win, but basically this is really bad against his character. And he's like, you can ask Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick's come out and in support of Schiano, Meyer, all these different people.
Yeah, that's so weird. It seems like, with the whole mob mentality thing, it's so unwarranted in this situation, because it's just a guy being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Potentially,
yeah. And that's the thing. We'll never really know
unless he actually admits to it, or just says, what I've been saying for years now is true.
Well, what are you guys saying? Do you guys think that
innocent until proven guilty?
That's the way you have to look at it.
You can't think of him as guilty, because even in
guilty
court,
by association.
Even in court, they didn't even try for him to be involved in it, and they try to get everybody.
They implicated as many people as they could on that.
So is the Penn State thing the only thing that triggered all of this? Is there anything else that could have? That's it. They just
Because Sandusky was with Penn State for years,
right
under Joe Paterno, and so that's why they only really searched into Penn State for years.
Yeah, and that's the only reason why Schiano is not getting hired for Tennessee, which is a pretty lucrative job. I mean, it's SEC. They're a perennial powerhouse. They haven't been the last few years, but they're one of those teams where that's a job you want.
Oh,
and
yeah,
you
definitely.
brought up a great question before we started recording. Are there going to be coaches that are going to want to go and play for this university now knowing that the AD, the athletic director, and the staff can be so easily cowed and bent to the public's will?
Because it's not like Schiano was even their first choice. He was their fourth choice. And so now, like, why would you want to go to Tennessee when, like you said...
Yeah, that makes it tough.
I mean, nobody's excited about a new coach. I mean, I'd say half the populace is like, oh, maybe he'll be good. Others like, oh, no, I like the last guy, or I would rather have this guy instead. So it's just such a... I mean, the job's already lost its lore these past couple of years because Tennessee's not as good as it used to be. I'd say the early thousands, it kind of was dead as the sense of being a great job.
Well, especially now, if you don't have the fan base with you, that's going to mess things up even more.
Well, it's because they mentioned John Gruden wanting to go there and be a head coach. So that's why no matter who they hired, they were going to be disappointed. But they pictured their previous coach was Schiano. And so that's why I feel like this is more of a, oh, let's say this is the reason why we don't want him.
Well, in this situation, is this just a market trying to save face? Kind of like the whole NFL and the taking a knee type thing. Everybody's starting to boycott the NFL, so now the NFL is trying to see what they could do to save face. So in this situation, what does Tennessee do? What were they supposed to do? Hire him anyways, even though everybody in there...
Well, he's had numerous jobs since that situation in the early 90s. I mean, I believed he was a Rutgers coach in the late thousands. He was the Tampa Bay Bucks head coach for numerous years, and then he was the defensive coordinator for Ohio State these past couple of years, which is also a lucrative job under Urban Meyer.
So what makes this one so different?
It doesn't.
The issue with this one, I think, is the fact that in the 90s and the early 2000s, you didn't have this whole push where people could get together. We were reading an article before this, and I was quoting it to you guys on saying that in this day and age, there's a mob mentality, and people are willing to jump on a bandwagon with just seeing a headline. I mean, we talked about this when we talked about the whole sexual harassment thing. We talked about it when we were talking about the gun control. People see a headline and they jump on it and they pile on because that's what everyone's doing. You got a mixture of virtue signaling and a mixture of wanting to look like you're doing the right thing without doing any of the groundwork, any of the Sherlock Holmes detective stuff. And that's what's happening here. You're having people jump to conclusions before they have any of the evidence to support those. That article that I was talking about, it's a really good article. It's on PennLive.com, and it's a Penn State football website. There are people that were heavily involved in all of this. And the gentleman who wrote it, he wrote a very good, balanced article. He's not by any means saying that Schiano's innocent of all this, but what he's saying is it's just sad that we've come to this where we just jump to conclusions before we've got the evidence.
Yeah, especially like you said, nowadays where all it takes is one guy with a megaphone talking a little bit louder than everybody else, and people seem to listen and want to jump in, regardless of what the situation is.
Well, we've got kind of that sheep mentality where if we hear something that we like, we're going to jump on board and just be this guy's right, I'm going to follow whatever the hell he says because I agree with him.
Well, I mean, shit, look at our presidency. How do you think Donald Trump became the president? It's not much different.
Well, very true.
It's all politics in a sense. Everybody's using Twitter now.
Yeah.
I mean...
The one thing that we talked about this in social media too, way back in episode 2, but the one thing...
Throwback Monday.
Yeah. The one thing that is crazy about social media is it's given people a platform. People who might not necessarily deserve to have a following. People who, if you were to talk to them face to face, you'd go, this guy's an idiot. But they might say the right things, put up the right facade, and have the right Twitter handle. And next thing you know, they've got a following, and people follow them like sheep.
Yeah, so really, I mean, the big topic here is the mob mentality and what it can do to people's characters, regardless if it's true or not. And it goes into every aspect of life. I mean, even in just celebrities. I mean, wasn't there this big thing with like Jay-Z and one of his songs? Was it Jay-Z? Jay-Z and Beyonce? Something. It was a Twitter war and Beyonce's fans were like throwing hate mail and like crazy tweets towards Jay-Z because they thought he was cheating on her.
It was
Yes, I
Beyonce's
remember
song.
that.
Beyonce's song.
Beyonce's
I remember
song.
that, yeah.
Right. Some,
she sings
Becky
about,
with
like,
the good hair or something
Yeah,
like
she
that.
knows about like his mistress or something. I know. I mean, I'm not a big.
Right, we got to brush up on our. Somebody will let us know.
I was sitting there like, Noel, you probably know more about this topic than I do. I don't know.
But there was a thing. But anyways, it's your basic mob mentality. I mean, you're sending your following, your Twitter following, and attacking somebody else without even having to do anything. You use your people. It's like a game of chess. You throw your pawns out there, and I mean that's kind of this Tennessee situation.
It's a groupthink mentality. And I've heard about it talked about so much on podcasts, but people tend to have they don't think of the consequences of their actions when they have that mob mentality. When they're all together, like if you were by yourself, you wouldn't go and break a window in a Starbucks to protest. But when you're with 150 other people, you feel like you don't have the same responsibility for your actions because you're going to filter through the crowd and get away. It's this thing we have in the back of our mind where we do not feel like our actions are something we need to take responsibility for.
At that point, who's responsible at that point? The person that created the following, or the mob for doing what they do?
Or the person that listens to the mob.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, the following, like what
The people that join the mob, is that what you're saying?
No, I mean,
Or
like
you
the
saying-
athletic director who said, "Oh, the mob's saying this and don't want him."
You're
Okay,
saying
let's-
you're saying the people that bend without evidence.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so are you saying that this is more Tennessee's fault than the mob from Tennessee?
Yeah, I say it's more Tennessee's fault because they gave the mob the voice and they let them win in a sense, obviously, because they got what they wanted. They wanted him gone. So now people that see this are going to be like, oh, well, as long as we just keep fighting against what they say, then we can get it our way.
Wasn't that the big thing? Fight for your rights, have a voice.
Yeah, but there's a constructive way of doing things and non-constructive way of doing things.
It seems like it was very constructive because they
That's
got
the
what they
problem.
wanted.
That's why Tennessee failed in this situation. They gave in.
Yeah, you're threatening this guy's livelihood, his future livelihood, because now you're hitting his character, which is the one thing that you can't recover from something like this. We already talked about it with the whole sexual harassment thing. It's the one thing you can't recover from, and that was our fear. We talked about that. We said, if people start throwing allegations out about anything, and it's the hot topic of the day, then all of a sudden that guy's going to be screwed no matter if he's innocent or guilty. And this whole groupthink mentality is so scary. I mean, I think we talked about it before, but that Brett Weinstein from Evergreen College up in Washington for that day of absence, and he still went to work because he's like, well, it's racist to say that I can't go to work, and I'm a huge liberal, a huge progressive. It's a really interesting story because they did the same thing. They cowed the dean. They pushed him into a position where he basically had to put this guy on a leave of absence, and eventually he sued the college, obviously, as he should, and eventually they came to a settlement or some kind out of court. But there's an incredible video on YouTube of these 18 and 19-year-old kids saying that the dean, who was trying to address them and trying to explain what the university was trying to do, and he's using his hands like most people do when they talk, they said those were what were they called? There's a name for it. It was like a threat. Yeah, it was like a threat. I forget the name for it, but it was some kind of small threat to them.
Yeah, it was like almost like a passive aggressive type way of speaking to someone.
Microaggression. That's the word. It was a microaggression. And you see this kid standing up and kind of charging the stage a little bit, and he goes, "Put your hands down. Put your hands down." And so the dean goes, "Oh crap," puts his hands down. They all start laughing and cheering. And you're like, this is what we're teaching kids in college nowadays? Which I guarantee you there are a lot of college kids marching in this Schiano thing.
Oh,
Guaranteed.
for sure. Definitely. Man, see, this is a tricky situation because it's like, I look at colleges are basically mini businesses, especially when it comes to college sports.
And college football as a whole. I mean, there's multi-billion dollars.
Exactly. So, I mean, it'd be one thing if it was just like some mom and pop store ignoring these people outside of their business because it doesn't mean anything to them. Money's not as...
Well, there won't be more than 10 people.
Exactly. But when you got a school like Tennessee that, especially Tennessee fans, to them, Tennessee football is life. So...
Anything in the SEC.
Yeah, exactly. You flip it and say Notre Dame. If this was the same situation in Notre Dame, you don't think Notre Dame fans would be up in arms or anything like that? They probably would be. And I think Notre Dame would have to do the same thing and listen. You got to listen to what they have to say at that point. And I mean, so it's a tough decision. That's all I'm trying to say. It's a tough decision.
If you are the AD and all this is happening on your campus right now, what would you do in that scenario?
Especially if it's my fourth option, I say, all right, maybe it's not worth the trouble. I'd let the coach go, and I'd look for my fifth option. That's what I would do personally, as a business person. But whether it's right or wrong,
you're not a business person.
No,
you're an athletic director.
Well, I mean, you're looking out for your athletic department. I think the smart move would be to.
There's really no right or wrong on this because we really don't know if he did what they say he did or not. But I think it's just the principle of the matter. What would you do?
I would stand my ground. I mean, you made that decision, and for you to go back and say, no, never mind, it just shows that you can be second-guessed, and it shows that you second-guess yourself. So then the fans are even more upset. They're like, oh, well, if he's not even confident in his own decision, how's he going to be confident in the next decision?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a parent giving in and buying that chocolate bar every time you go to the grocery store with the kid, and the kid expects it every time. Yep. So now they expect every time they tell the school, not just the athletic director, because this is the school, they expect the school to do whatever they say now. So I would be the middle ground between these. I would say we're going to keep him on board because there is no evidence of any of this happening. 2, we're going to launch our extensive investigation into this over the next few weeks. College football season isn't even over yet. You have plenty of time. If this doesn't work out, hire your fifth option.
But who's to say the fifth option is even going to want to go there now?
Exactly.
Or who's to say that Sandusky would even want to be anywhere they would even want to do something like that? Who's to say he would be okay with Tennessee saying, oh, well, okay, well, maybe they're right. We're going to have to look even a little deeper now, even though we already gave you a contract.
You mean Schiano?
Schiano, yeah. Sorry.
Like Sandusky, he's in prison.
Yeah, sorry. You know what I meant, though. But yeah, back to what I was saying is, how do you know that he would even be okay with that? I mean, that's a...
Well, that's the thing. Also, if you're Schiano, I'd be like, fuck you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's my point. Is if I was Schiano, I'd be like, what? You want to do even more investigations on me, even when the courts didn't want to do anything? Nah, fuck you guys.
And if I were him right now, get that lawsuit ready for that school right now.
Oh, for sure.
Get it ready. I want to know. I don't know if it's come out yet how much paperwork actually got done, or if it was more of a verbal thing, or if there was any kind of signature done. Because if that happens and I'm Schiano, I'm lawyering up right the fuck now.
I'll tell you what. If he doesn't try and God, I gotta stop hitting my mic. If he doesn't try and sue Tennessee, I think that's more of a red flag than anything.
Yeah. Well, to be honest,
yeah,
but does he like? But here's the thing. Yeah, he could. I mean, we expect him to. But the thing is,
would it make him the bigger person if he doesn't?
Does he even want the headache? Or does he want to go vacation for a few years and then come back and get another job in the NFL?
No, he's still a defensive coordinator.
Yeah,
at Ohio
exactly.
State.
Exactly. You know what? And Urban Meyer's going to keep him.
Oh, for sure.
That.
That's a tricky situation. I don't know. All I'm saying, if I was Tennessee, I'd rather keep my fan base happy and find a fifth option than go with somebody and then possibly have empty seats.
But who's to say they're going to be happy now? What if your fifth choice doesn't want you and you go 6th, 7th, 8th, and all of a sudden you're hiring some nobody?
Or is actually a rapist, then you find out later in the season. Who knows?
He's not even the rapist, though. He just possibly witnessed or...
Oh, no. I'm just saying your fifth option.
Yeah.
I'm saying your fifth option might be. You never know.
Yeah. So that's a mob taking down someone's job.
It's crazy. And while we were talking about it, the more you think about it, I mean, the mob mentality is definitely the 2017 way of life now.
Well, it's just a scary thought because now it just encourages that mentality to keep growing. That's what I'm saying. That's why it's a slippery slope.
Influenced by numbers, for sure.
Well, yeah, and it's the scary thing about that is you just made me think of that is, so now, what if I don't want, say Steve Kerr retires from the Warriors because of his back problems, and I don't want the next coach that they're about to hire. I cannot stand this guy, Bill Jones. Can't stand him. Sorry, Bill Jones. But I can't stand this Bill Jones guy. I heard he raped somebody. And what can we do to make sure our ownership doesn't hire this guy? Slippery slope now, because now it's proven that you can do that.
Especially in California.
Oh, God, yes.
Well, here's the thing. Is like, it sounds like it could be a bad thing, but it could possibly be a good thing, too. I mean, at the end of the day, the teams are for the fans. So giving a little bit more power to the fans, the people that care, the ones that are going to care enough to even go out of their way to fight for a head coach that they don't personally like, or vice versa, you would think that that'd be a good thing. It just seems weird because it's not what we're used to.
Who's to say that the people that started this mob are even fans?
That's what I was about to say. Good catch on that, because I guarantee you most of them are not. I guarantee you they're activists looking to get on the front page of some news. Guaranteed.
It's a good point. I mean, yeah, I can't argue that. There's a good chance that's what it is.
Because, I mean, a true fan would stick with what they're going to have.
I don't know, man. I sit back and I think about the Michael Vick stuff that was happening with Atlanta. There was a lot of split fans. Some fans that would sit in there picketing because they bled red. Oh, well, everybody bleeds red, but you know what I mean. They breed Falcons. They're everything about the Falcons is their life. And then Michael Vick did that thing, and there was thousands and thousands of people protesting about them having
different, though, on so many
How
levels.
is it different?
He actually committed that crime.
Right, but if they're saying that he had anything to do with it, even if he had something minor to do with it, that's still not okay with them. So how is that any different?
Well, the difference is Vic actually did it. Schiano literally got looked at. They looked at all the evidence in a courtroom, and he was declared non-interest, nothing.
Right.
It was an allegation. So he's already been cleared, technically.
Okay, I'm not really trying to compare the two situations. I'm saying the mob mentality thing or the fans. I mean, clearly there's a lot of fans of a certain team like Tennessee, like the Falcons, whatever. There's a good chance some of them that are protesting might not be protesting for the right reasons, but you can't say that about all of them.
Well, I'm not saying that all the mob was.
And my point is, even if only 5 of them are fighting for their what they feel is the right cause, that shouldn't degrade them for it, or think that their voice shouldn't matter.
But is it okay for a mob to attack somebody's livelihood?
No, absolutely not.
Because that's what happened.
I mean,
that
is what happened. Yeah,
that's what happened. They attacked his means of providing for his family for years and years to come.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not like he just lost a job and can go pick up another job at Save Mart tomorrow. You know, he might never coach again.
Well, yeah, you're applying for a very public job. It's not like this is some office job that nobody sees. He's the face of Tennessee.
Since that situation with Sandusky and the trial in the late 2008s and 9s, he's been a head coach previously.
Right, but I'm just saying...
So what makes Tennessee bigger than the NFL team?
Absolutely nothing. I'm just saying these particular Tennessee fans felt strongly enough to where they didn't want this gentleman to be the face of their team. Just like some people felt strongly enough to protest about Donald Trump being the face of our country. There's just some things that people feel strongly about, and they're going to voice their opinion. And in this situation, Tennessee decided to listen to those people. Whether that was right or wrong, that's up for debate. The more I sit here and think about it, I mean, that it was kind of a dick move. I don't think they should have done that, but I could see why they did.
Like 5% of me sees why they did it.
Yeah, no.
But 95% of me says, fuck Tennessee.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Well, as a Florida fan, I just absolutely hate Tennessee, and I hope they suck and they make sure that we're not in last place.
I just so the mob mentality thing, to me personally, it's a double-edged sword. It has its good and its bad. I just don't think people know how to use it correctly yet.
I feel like there's a lot of anger behind it.
Yeah.
And anger is never a good place to come from when they try to get things done.
And how much news is out there right now? There's a lull in like big shocking stories. So if this happens the same week Vegas happens, if this happens the same week Trump says something ridiculous, if he grabs someone, this isn't a story. In all honesty,
definitely. We're in a lull right now because it's only been a week and there hasn't been a shooting.
Yep, exactly. And that's how fast this society moves.
Definitely. So on the flip side, since we're talking coaches, Grizzlies head coach David Fizdale gets fired after...
Fizdale for sure. David, I'm not 100%.
I'm pretty sure it's David.
It is. It's
David Fizdale, Grizzlies head coach. I know this is a very sports-related conversation, but
it's good. Now we can see what one person's going to do instead of a group of people.
Let's just... All right, so we're going to get it out there. He was a rookie head coach. He's been an assistant coach in the league for, I believe, like almost 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Different teams, Warriors, Bulls.
He's a somewhat of a veteran assistant.
Yeah, so... Last year was his first year as a head coach for the Memphis Grizzlies. Takes them to the playoffs. They lose in the first round, but...
To the Spurs.
And that's in the West. So anybody that doesn't know basketball...
Real playoffs.
NBA Western Conference is the conference you want to be in. That is the competition of the competition. The worst team in the West is the best team in the East. Top three.
Much. You're making the playoffs.
Yeah. So anyways,
unless you're the Lakers.
I'm just trying to build a resume for...
I'd say almost top 10 in the West is better than top 5 in the East.
Yeah. So Fizdale takes a great young team to the playoffs.
50-51, which is great in the West.
Yeah. Absolutely amazing. Has a great young star, Mike Conley, Marcus Saul, superstar, Spaniard, whatever. Great team. Seems to be well liked by the whole team, as far as I knew all last year. Every game I watched, everybody had nothing but good things to say about David Fizdale. Mm-hmm. And then now, news comes out today that he gets fired after going...
They're like 7-12 or something like that.
7-12, maybe a little. They were on an 8-game losing streak.
Yeah, they were struggling. So he's obviously going to mix some things up as a coach,
which is rough. Yeah. So what ends up happening is he benches their star center, Marc Gasol, in the fourth quarter, and it raises hell. Apparently, Marc Gasol and the head coach, David, got into it in the locker room, and this was previous, like a couple days ago, and then news today comes out that he got fired. How do you guys feel about that? Was it just?
I feel like tempers always flare when you're losing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And in that kind of environment, you have to trust your coach.
Yeah.
And you have to trust your player. But just because they get in one argument, in one fight, I feel like shouldn't be enough ground to fire somebody.
So,
do you have the tweet?
This guy tweeted. So you're going to read that tweet. But Jonathan Givenoy at Draft Express on Twitter said that word out of Memphis this past summer already was Marc Gasol and Coach Fizdale were on very poor terms after some confrontations in practice. It seemed inevitable they'd have to pick between one or the other eventually. This really isn't some recent thing. But the issue is, I think it's hilarious that they jumped to such a quick conclusion, like we're going to fire this coach because he benched our star in the fourth quarter and our star doesn't like it. And if they're going to do that, this is not a big market. This isn't LA. This isn't New York. Like, I understand if you want to fire someone like that in LA or New York or Miami, but this is Memphis.
Well, and that was Fizdale's big thing, is he was trying to make them this big market team. He fought for them all year last year, saying that they were getting undercut. There was that great clip of him yelling about how the refs were siding for the Spurs because they have all this privilege and every call should go their way because of
We're not going to get rooked. We're not going to get rooked.
Exactly. And that's the type of head coach that you want, especially with a young team with a Mike Conley that's getting way overpaid. But, I mean, he's trying to make them a big market team. And then for them to be losing just 8 games so early in the season, I mean, we're not even at the quarter point. And to fire your head coach like that, it's just, as a basketball fan, that just kills me. That gives your team basically no hope going forward.
It ruins the season.
Yeah.
They're 1.5 games out of the playoffs right
So I'm thinking him and Marc Gasol must have got really into it. I mean, you're talking a manager going at their most seniority? Senor.
Termo senor. Wow, that was good because he's Spanish. You're most senor player.
His most seasoned employee?
Yeah, really?
I mean,
he's the face of their franchise.
Yeah. It's you just... Something had to go down. So then you look at these tweets, and you got David Aldridge tweeting, ugly scene in the Grizzlies locker room just now. David Fizdale stormed in and yelled at Marc Gasol, "You got me fired, didn't you? You fat fuck." Gasol then spits in Fizdale's face, and punches were thrown.
If someone spits in my face, I'm going to knock him out, though. That's the thing. Don't spit in my face.
To be fair, I think I looked it up.
Reaching up.
Yeah. Fizdale's not a very tall person.
Well, he got a quick boost from the ball boy.
Okay, so tempers are flaring. We've seen it before in other sports.
Giannis just yelled at that assistant coach.
Yes.
On the opposing team, though.
Yeah, but still.
But either way, and all over the place. I mean, look at players but it's normally the players going at the coach, not so much the coach going at the player. Mm-hmm. Very different situation.
Well, because the coach has to show that authority figure. You can't go after one player, then it kind of loses the team.
So I'm wondering if this was more of the coach losing control of the locker room, so management had to do something, or them losing 8 games had something to do with it. If it's the 8 games part of it, that's absolute bullshit, because you got the freaking 76ers #trust the process losing for like 2 straight years on purpose. Maybe longer. Yeah, obviously longer. But I think they only claim tanking for 2 seasons, 2 to 3. But tanking is what they were glorified on.
Mm-hmm. And look at it. It's flipping over for them, isn't it?
Luckily.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't, they could sit there and be like, oh, yep, we just need that one more piece.
Just need to trust the process.
Yeah. But so this is, I mean, I just want to bring this up because I know everybody's thinking it. Is this a white or black thing? Is it a privilege thing? Because what other coach that is black has ever been able to tank a season and still have his job the next?
Do you think that's maybe why LeBron said something?
Absolutely. That's why Stephen A. Smith is so pissed off.
When is he not pissed off?
Yeah, but I mean, I'm siding with him on this one.
Yeah.
How many black coaches are in the NBA right now?
That's a great question.
I'm going to look it up.
Off the top of my head, I could at least 4 to 5.
Which isn't
on
a lot
good
for 30 teams.
Because you got to think Doc Rivers. Well, Fizdale's gone, so.
Lou.
Yeah.
Man, this should be a lot easier. See, this is the problem, too. This should be easier to do.
Well, they don't really have an actual
You
number,
can't just Google black NBA
it's
coaches.
one of the top searches on Google, but it does pop up and it says the NBA's from 2001 to 2014. The NBA averaged 11 black head coaches per season. On opening night in 2012, half of the NBA's 30 head coaches were people of color, including an all-time 14 black coaches. So 2012 there were 14. I don't know how many there are now. I'll look it up right now.
So it's I don't want to. Okay, obviously it's probably not a black and white thing. It's not what it was. But I could see where people would look at it that way because of this whole 76ers issue. The 76ers set the precedence that it is okay to lose as long as you're trying to build something. Kind of like in the NFL where you tank the last couple of games because you want to get that draft pick. Potentially the exact same thing in the NBA, especially now that they're changing the lottery format.
Oh, yeah, there's lower percentage.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So for them to fire a coach like that after 1 year and they go to the playoffs, something else has to be up. But for him to be as heated as he is means that it has to be player relations, not anything that has to do with the game.
Well, they have a ton of injuries. I mean, that's a huge excuse for them losing 12 games. It says here Mike Conley's missed 7, and JaMychal Green's been out for 12. Ben McLemore was absent for the first 11 games of the season as well.
And in the offseason, they got rid of Zach Randolph.
Yeah.
Which was a huge piece for them. So, wins or losses aside, this is, I don't know, it ticks me off. I think it just makes me more mad because I'm going to keep bringing it up, the 76ers. I think it's absolute bullshit that a team could freaking tank for as long as they have been. And for a head coach to still be glorified as, just building a team.
Maybe it's because the 76ers were kind of open about it. Remember we talked about that whole, if you're truthful about your mistakes, people have a tendency to forgive you more. Maybe the 76ers got a pass from their fans and from all those people because it's like, there is a process. This is, at least they're saying they're tanking.
They marketed it. Yeah. They definitely marketed tanking.
Losing.
I'd hire their marketing guy in an instant if he can sell losing games.
I don't know. So, with the Grizzlies, they take the assistant head coach, move him up to
Bickerstaff.
Head coach. If I'm anybody else, I don't want to go play. I don't want to coach for Memphis. If I see what happened to Fizdale, am I saying his last name right?
Yeah, Fizdale.
If I see that happen, I'm like, I don't know if I want to fill those shoes.
I mean, this is the same situation as Tennessee. Why would you want to coach an organization that's going to...
This is worse. This is the organization. There was no mob coming at them and forcing their hand. This is just management saying, nah.
If what Fizdale said is true, and he could have been super pissed and just been targeting Gasol, but if he was fired because Gasol was upset and said something to management, boy, the power of one person to do that.
Yeah. Talk about a mob forcing your hand, but one player... That's LeBron James saying, nope, this guy's got to go.
I mean, he's done that.
He's done that.
Exactly.
I'm sure he's not the only person either.
That's not okay, though, right? That's not okay.
No, it's not. No. You shouldn't be able to get someone fired, I don't think.
But this is a classic case of the NBA players being bigger than what they really are. I mean, this has happened for years now.
Yeah, it's crazy. Can you name 15 NBA coaches that are coaching right now? You're going to get the big ones. You're going to get Kerr. You're going to get Popovich. You're going to get Eric Spoelstra. And how many people knew who this guy was, in all honesty? How many casual NBA fans knew who David Fizdale was? But they probably knew who Marc Gasol was.
Yeah. It's just debatable.
I knew Fizdale just because of last year's rant against the Spurs, because it's true.
Yeah.
What he was saying, but that's why I knew who the coach was for Memphis. But if he didn't say those things, I would have never known.
I don't know.
Players have more power in that structure, in that sport. I think that's one of the sports where players have the most power. I really don't think
because such a small number.
Yeah, I don't think like an MLB player would be able to get their manager fired as often as it happens in the NBA. You might see one or two, but I also think it's a mentality thing too. There are superstars in the NBA, people that make 10 times as much money outside of the sport just because they play it.
But here's the problem: is how does a coach get to a Popovich like resume?
Winning.
Yeah, but
longevity too, being trusted.
But here's the thing: this guy was winning. He had 1 year. His second year didn't even get to go a quarter in. So how are you get to build a resume without giving a chance?
Problem is, that's the new age mentality of the NBA.
Exactly.
Popovich's been around since the 90s.
It's either win now or nothing.
Well, that's
or market your team to be losers and hope for the best.
But like I was thinking about this the other day actually, because they were showing Duke was on the TV, and Duke basketball, I mean, they've had one coach forever. Krzyzewski's been there forever. And I started thinking, okay, how many other coaches are in that generation of just being at a school forever? Okay, you got Roy Williams at North Carolina. He hasn't been at that school forever, but he will never coach anywhere else. He's going to coach there. Okay, you got Bill Self, who's probably going to be at Kansas forever. You've got Tom Izzo at Michigan State. You don't have, and there's not that.
I would say Petrino, but
yeah, exactly. So and
well played.
Calipari is never going to have that because he has all that scandal behind him when it comes to the whole Memphis thing and all that. So you're losing this longevity. Like, one of my favorite things watching sports is being like, that manager's won 1,000 games. Oh my gosh, that coach has coached, has won 300 games in the NFL. That's
with one team.
Yeah, exactly. There's that longevity. Back in the day when like Tony Gwynn played his whole career for the Padres. And it's like that is going to be lost. I think once free agency happened, the next domino to fall would be the coaching carousel. If it's what have you done for me lately, and Noel brought that up. It's like you better win now or goodbye, and there's no chance to build. I mean, we're going to see Hugh Jackson get fired at the end of this year. They only have one win, and I mean that's the extreme.
They don't have a win.
No, but in 2 years they have one win.
Okay.
Yeah. They have one win in 2 years, which is even worse, I think, than not winning a game in a season. Because I don't think the Lions did that. I think the Lions had a couple of wins on each end of that.
Even the Bucks, the last team even before Lions did not win a game, they even won 2 games in a 2 year span. So if the Browns don't win a game this year, they'll be the worst NFL team in 2 seasons in NFL history.
Yeah, so and he's going to get fired for it. But back in the day, like I read a book about the old school Packers, like back in the day. It was like a 1960s book falling apart, and it was all the original story of the Packers before the NFL. And I mean, there were coaches that would go 0-10 and they'd get hired back the next year because the players liked them, or because, we'll give them another shot type thing. And it was pretty regular where it wasn't like an automatic firing if you had a bad year. And now coaches get fired in major sports when they make the playoffs. It's insane.
Yeah,
times have changed though.
I mean, Danny, you've said it a billion times. It's everybody just wants instant satisfaction. I mean, there's no debating that. It is what it is.
That's not even sports though. It's everything.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's life now, and that, unfortunately, it makes things tough for everybody. You can even. I don't know. I was hearing you guys talking about the NFL and stuff, so. This has nothing to do with anything, but to sidetrack really quick. But
if this is about a Falcons player,
no, definitely not. Absolutely not. It's about the Browns.
I was thinking the same.
Funny thing, but I was looking at my Julio Jones.
Fun fact: the Falcons. No, if you're a player coming out of college and you know you're going to get drafted by the number 1 pick, and it's going to be the Browns,
I stay. I don't go.
Didn't someone do that? Didn't someone say that if the Browns get the pick, they're not going to?
Was it Stanford or USC's quarterback?
Was it UCLA's quarterback? It was Rosen. Was it Rosen?
Oh, I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
One of these top name quarterbacks straight up said they're going to stay another year in college if they're going to get drafted by the Browns.
Are the number 1 pick. Yeah, he's not going to do it.
Which this isn't the first time it's happened. I was talking to Megan's dad, Russell. He was saying that this has happened with
Eli.
Yeah. Aikman? Was it Troy Aikman?
I think it was Troy Aikman, yeah. There were a couple.
John Elway.
John Elway.
Yes,
Elway. It
John
wasn't
Elway was
Aikman.
the big one.
Aikman was a different thing. He switched colleges because he didn't like the head coach. And then that head coach ended up being his NFL coach. A different story, but
Did he go to Oklahoma?
yes.
Okay, yeah. I know
Yeah.
what you're talking about. That coach is a dick.
Yeah. But then he ended up going and coaching for the Cowboys.
Yep.
It's just like karma.
Yeah.
Anyways,
But yeah, that was a
But-
huge
so-
thing with Elway.
how do you guys feel about players doing that? I mean, Trevor, you just said you would do the same thing.
Did I say that?
Yeah, you just said you would.
Oh, if the Browns were going to draft me?
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough because you want to be the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't you? I mean, you get a little extra.
And if you're a real competitor, don't you think you want to be the guy that's going to turn that shit around? I'm going to be the savior.
Or are you just going to be another piece of that shit and fucking
if I'm
ruin
a
your
quarterback,
career?
I do not want to go to the Browns. They've ruined every quarterback for the past 20 years.
And that's the thing. That's the big question is, do you take the risk?
If I have another year of eligibility in college, I'm staying.
Is it weird to know that the Browns are really the Ravens? Boy, the Browns got fucked on that one.
Anyways.
Do you?
Man, I don't know. I always have that mindset that I like that underdog story, so I would go to the underdog team and try to make it work out.
I would want to be like,
I would have to.
I'm going to change it. I'm going to be the guy.
I got too much ego and confidence
I mean,
to
let's
not be that
say,
guy.
I mean, there could be multiple factors. Let's say you don't win the Heisman Trophy your junior year. Let's say you lose your bowl game or in the college football playoff, and the Browns could take you first overall. They're like, well, I could win the Heisman next year. I could win the national championship, and I could get drafted number 1 overall by, let's say, the Colts because Andrew Luck's not coming back now.
Yeah, it's true. But also, you could also be, the typical college player and already have like 2 kids. And like, okay, I need to support my family.
Oh, you guys are thinking totally out. I'm thinking, or I could play another year in college, blow out my knee, and never even get a chance at the NFL.
Money.
No, you'll still get a chance.
I mean, not the same chance though.
All right,
You're not
so
going to get that.
You're not first overall, but you can still be top 10.
Yeah, but I mean, look at the pay difference between first overall and
10th overall?
second round.
There's really not that big a difference now with the structuring by the
I guess,
CBA.
yeah. Well, now when you got
the
quarterbacks getting
second
drafted in the
contracts.
6th round and they're all of a sudden super studs.
Yeah, the second contract's where it's at. That's where you make your money.
Anyways, I still think I'd go to the Browns. I wouldn't be happy about
With
it.
their history, though?
Yeah, dude. I don't know. That's just me.
Have you seen that
personally.
jersey with all the names of the quarterbacks?
I don't know, man. I
Amber
just think
Canyon looks so good on that jersey. It'd
just
take up the
Right in the middle afle you failed, and there's all these other names below you.
somebody's gonna turn it around. Not just saying it's the Browns, but
Yeah.
yeah. What about the draft systems? Do you guys think that any of them should change?
NBA.
NBA for
without
sure.
a
That
doubt.
lotto is ridiculous.
It's stupid. I
yeah.
don't care if teams tank any sport, a team can tank any sport.
Yeah. Hey, the Astros tanked. They
Like
they
that?
distinctly tanked, and it worked.
Yeah, I fucking hate it. I hate the tanking mentality.
It's a but you know what's kind of crazy about the tanking mentality? It must be hard for people because and we all want this reward right away. No one likes to wait for a reward.
Yeah.
That's literally saying I'm going to potentially sacrifice my job so that in a few years we might have a chance to win a championship.
Not only that, you're still selling tickets to fans to come watch you guys suck.
Yeah, like look at the Niners.
man.
I mean, they're terrible, and they have that new stadium.
That's just shots
Tickets
fired.
are cheap though.
What?
Yeah.
No,
Dude,
it's not that cheap.
we sat pretty close for pretty cheap. I mean, they were 1 in like 10 at that point, but it was against the Jets. So, but I still went to an
Because
NFL
they're
game.
going against the Jets. Nobody cares about the Jets
Yeah.
out here.
But the crazy thing is like if you're a fan and you're a fan through all those tough times, it feels so much better when they eventually do win it, even if you're 95 years old, like a
Yeah,
lot of
just
the
ask the
Cubs
Browns.
fans
Feels so good to eventually win.
were. Well,
I wonder if the Browns voice matters to the ownership over the Browns fans.
They don't have any voices anymore. They don't give a shit.
speak about the real injustice. The Browns don't have a chance.
Jesus. I do want to know though. So David Fizdale, do you guys think he gets hired right away?
Yes.
I think it'd be not right away because we're just beginning the
Mid-season.
NBAs.
Well, they fired him.
So here's the question:
Middle-
do you think he gets hired this season if another coach gets fired, or do you think he gets hired fresh next season?
Fresh next season. There's no way that
Yeah.
they hire mid-season. This just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
not
would
unless
be-
you're trusting the process.
Yeah.
You're
No one
abandoning
gets
the
fired.
process at that
no
point.
one gets fired midway. But I think he picks up right away. I think he'll pick up
Next
the team
year, yes, without doubt.
Yeah, for sure.
Could be a Clippers job.
He's got players on his guy that's got his back. I mean, if LeBron's tweeting, I mean, come on, the NBA's got your back.
Yeah,
And he's cool. He's like a cool hip coach. I mean, his wife's a smoke show. His freaking life is pretty good.
We didn't even talk about that. If anybody wants to know who this David Fizdale guy is, well, check out his wife. It's a win.
She looks like half his age. It's insane.
Everybody,
That's relevant.
Yeah, everyone on Twitter is saying he'll be okay.
He'll be okay.
LeBron Shub, he's fine.
Yeah, but it is crazy to think that we literally looked at two different styles of how people can get influenced. I mean, with the mob mentality and just one person's influence on basically, yeah, like we said, their character and how much things can change just by one person's opinion of another.
Yeah, two polar opposites and same result.
Same result.